next up is going to be Victor, and he's going to be talking about dominant focus. And I'm super excited to hear about this so that we can add in what we've learned about scheduling. Right, Stephen? I'm kidding. It was about systems. Here he is. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, this plush animal reminds me how God moves. You know, it reminds me of how God takes the broken, the forgotten, and also the ones that life has knocked the shot out of them to make the impossible possible. And, you know, I believe that God does that, so there's no questions asked who did it. That when that person makes it, you know who did it. You know, it was him. You know, you might be asking yourself, why does he say that? Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. You see, I came to America at the age of 6 as an immigrant with my brother Hector and my sister Sandra. We crossed the Rio Grande, and all I remember was when we're in I-45 in Houston, Texas, I look up, and I'll see these glass buildings, and I say to myself in Spanish, aquí voy a hacer algo. Well, let me translate that to you. Because, you know, I'm going to tell you something. I might not help you today to create a blueprint, but I promise you I'm going to teach you a little bit of Spanish. All right? So what I said was, right here, I'm going to do something. Which I didn't understand. Man, why did I say that? And then I started to understand about 4 years ago, one day when I was journaling in the morning. How many of you journal in the morning? You know, okay, great. Well, a little bit about my journaling, you know, my wife calls it writing on my diary. So, I mean, just to let you know. So I was writing on my diary one day, and I said, well, Vic, you were shocked, man. All you knew was taking showers with a cup and a bucket. That's all you knew. And then the second thing I remember is when I was 10 years old. Man, my mom always had 2 or 3 jobs. And one of those jobs I truly hated, man, and she hated it. And that job was working at a bar. So every day I got to see my mom come home smelling like smoke, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Man, it hit me, man, that I was 10 years old and I couldn't do nothing. All I can do is sit there and just do nothing. So then I created a blueprint. When I was little, man, I said to myself, okay, what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to go to school, get educated, get a degree, own a business, have a lot of money. Cool, but like y'all say, the end game. Well, the end game, I need two luggages so I can get all the money and give it to my mom. So then one morning, my mom gets home at 2 in the morning, and I go running to her like, Mom. And she's like, ¿Qué pasó, mijo? And I'm like, well, let me translate that. What happened, son? And I'm like, Mom, cupo dos maletas. What I was saying is, Mom, I need 2 luggages. And she was like, ¿Pa qué? For what? And I said, Mom, so I can fill them up with money and get us out of poverty. That was my goal, man. Because I knew it was a normal. Thank you, man. Thank you. I knew it was a normal that when we were in line at grocery shopping and my mom had to tell me, hey, son, tell the cashier to don't exceed $100. That's all I got. I knew it wasn't normal also that we had to push a cart all the way back to our apartment. I knew that wasn't normal. Man, it took me 15 years. 15 years. It should have took me a shorter time. And I remember we were sitting in our house in Daytona Beach, Florida, looking at a fountain that we had on a pond. And my mom was right there, and I gave her a little suitcase. And she's like, ¿Qué es esto? What is this? I'm like, ábrelo, open it. She opens it, and she's shocked. And I'm like, Mom, there, it's the promise I made to you when I was 10 years old. And then she opens it, and I go, look, pay off your house, pay off everything, all your debt, pay off the car, pay off everything. Go ahead, pay it. And then she looked at me and said, hey, mijo. I'm like, what, son? Remember, mijo means son. What, son? She's like, are you a drug dealer? I'm like, no, Mom. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm a roofer, Mom. Well, a little bit about me, one of the businesses that I own one of the companies I own is Advantage Roofing. It does commercial and high-end residential. So no, I'm not a drug dealer, all right? All right, so there, I was done with the goal, with the dominant focus I created since I was 10. There, done, completed. But then, man, I got lost. I truly got lost. I became an alcoholic. Then after becoming an alcoholic, I became a cocaine addict. Because all I knew is how to make a lot of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like, great, another million. But you know who paid the price? My wife and my kids. Because I left them back there in Daytona while I was out there chasing storms, because that's what I did. Because they paid the price. Then people ask me, like, so how did you do it? Well, this is what I started doing. Every morning to today, even today, I write what I call my 6 North Star goals. There we go. Well, let me see if I can work this. There you go. Thank you. So the first thing I write every single morning is this: I am second, God is first. People ask me all the time, like, why do you write that? I'm like, man, I'm a very selfish individual. That's why. And I know there's one person over there saying, like, well, Mr. Victor, I do not have that problem. I'm not selfish. Huh. I bet you I can prove it that you are. Right now, there's a lot of photos being taken. And I bet that if there's a group photo being taken, the first person you're going to look for is you. Am I right or am I right? All right. But, and the picture looks great. Oh, great picture. Put it out there on social media, please. But if the picture looks bad, oh, bad picture. Take another one. All right? So that's why I write that goal. I am second, God is first. Oh, you got me? All right. Thank you. The second thing I write is, I am loving Jessica the way she is today. That's my wife. Man, I'm the man I am today because of that woman. You know, that woman's been with me since she was 15, I was 17. She's been with me since all I had was 2 dogs, a Boston Terrier and a pit bull named Yayo. I know somebody said, oh, Yayo, man. I'm like, yeah, all right, I was a teenager. So, yeah, Yayo, which later on I discovered there were really liabilities, not assets. You know, so that's the woman that's been with me, man, since day one. So it's a decision that I have made to love her no matter what. You know, I'm 38. She's about to be 36. And, you know, it's a decision. It's a decision that no matter what, we're getting older. My hair's getting more grayer. She says that my hair's kind of falling off. She still loves me. Sometimes she's sick. I'm there to serve her. Sometimes she's feeling great. Great. Some days she's sad. I'm there to comfort her. And there's days, as you know, ladies, there's those days that you don't want to see us. And okay, but it's a decision that I have made to love her no matter what. Thank you. Okay. The next thing I write is, I am a great father to my children today. I got 2 kids. I got a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old. My son's 19, my daughter is 15. You know what? I don't want to be a good father. I want to be a great father. Every morning since they were kids, I made it a priority to drop them at school. Every morning, no matter what. Because I always want to make sure that when they're anywhere with their friends, they can hear my voice. They can hear my voice. Like, well, my dad told me this. My dad told me that. Because at the same time, I've been their mentor and also their coach. You know, my daughter's 15. To this day, she don't want to date. And she's very beautiful. She don't want to date no one. And people be like, man, do you really mess her up? Because all she thinks about business and want to go, you know, create a dominant focus. I'm like, great. Sorry, boys, you know? So there it goes. I want to be a great father to my children today. Go ahead, brother. Next thing I'll write is, I'm a better version of myself today. And you see, I have a system. Since we're talking about systems, I have a system that every day I run, and I call it the whole person theory system. Go ahead. Press it, brother. Thank you. I believe that a person's made of 4 parts, 4 different intelligence. I believe that a person has to hit all 4 cylinders to become like just dominant. You got the IQ, intellectual quotient. That's your mind. You got your heart, EQ, emotional quotient. You got your SQ, spiritual quotient. And you got your PQ, physical quotient. So every morning, this is how I wake up and I run this system. Every morning I journal to God. That's what I do. That's my SQ, spiritual quotient. I read my devotionals every single morning. I thank Him for the day. When I journal, I say, thank you, Lord, for another great day. And then I start journaling. Second thing I do is I read. I read a lot. That's my IQ. And I always tell people straight up, hey, man, I might speak with an accent, but I promise you I don't think with it, all right? So, yeah, I read a lot. Third thing I do is I show love. I show love to my family, but also to my team members. And I'm very grateful for them because since I'm here, like one of y'all said, one of the speakers said, I can take off for months or even a year and come back and everything should be working perfectly. And I'm very grateful for the team. So when I show them appreciation from here. That's my EQ. And the last thing is my PQ, physical quotient. It's the body. Well, you're looking at a guy, man, that back then he used to be 230 pounds. All right, 230 pounds, and I bet, well, I can see one of the ladies say, well, that's not that bad. Well, hey, man, I'm only 5'7", all right? That's pretty bad, you know? That's really bad. So, yeah, PQ. And every afternoon, yeah, I work out. I used to have a personal trainer, which every time he sees me, he looks at me and says, hey, you see that guy? I saved his life. Saved his life, man. You know, he used to look like a big old sopapilla. And, yeah, I was big. So, yeah, he saved my life. I give him that. So that's the PQ. All right, and the next thing I write is I am impacting people's lives with my services and talents. For you all that has been to our offices, you see that on the walls. You see that. It says impacting people's lives with our services and talents. I believe being in transformation business, not in the transaction business. I believe that bringing a customer one way and then he leaves another way. You know, this April 1st was pretty hard for me, man, because I lost a great friend, but also a great client. But I loved him more as a friend than a client. And you know what's sad is how I discovered when he died, because on his will, there was only 3 people on his will that said, call. One of them was his daughter, then his best friend, and then me. I had to speak at his funeral because on his will it was, I want Victor to speak in my funeral. But as I'm speaking today, I know he'll be sitting right here in the audience because he always tells me, hey, man, I want to see how far you can go, son. I want to see how far you can go. I'm very proud of you, son. And I made fun of that because, you know, this guy, he's Caucasian, 6'5", and he always called me son. And at his funeral, I had to say that, like, hey, I guess I was like his brown son that he always said that he didn't know he had. Because that's one thing he always said, you're the son I never had. So that's one thing I believe is being in the transformation business and not in the transaction business. And like Athena said, hey, you know, about your customers, spend time with them. See what they're about. You know what I mean, how they're doing. And I'm like, you know what? She's right. That's one thing I've been doing, is I check on them. I've been the one that I'm always checking on my customers. That's why I'm here, as Roger knows, that we believe in the same things. We believe being in a transformation business. We believe in impacting people's life with our service and talents. That's why I'm here. Go ahead, brother. Next one. Last thing I'll write is, I'm leaving a legacy. See, I understand that I'm just a vapor in the wind, a wave in the ocean. One day you're here, and the next day you're gone, man. You know, I thought about it as I was writing all this. I was like, you know what? I can teach them a lot of systems. I can teach them my investment filter systems. I can teach them about CRMs. I mean, I can teach them how to just press a button on your phone, and great. I know where all my companies are at, how much money they're bringing in, how many leads, how many, all this. I can teach all that. It's not a problem. I have a guide, thank Lord. Again, the next book I'm working on is called How to Hire People Smarter, Faster, Better Than You. Because that's one thing I'm good at, is I know how to find people that are smarter, faster, better than you. You know, I'm that guy when we have a company's meeting, I'm just doing this, staying shut, letting the smart people, the people that are faster than me speak. So again, that's leaving a legacy. And since we're talking about leaving a legacy, go ahead, press it, thank you. That's why I wrote a book. I wrote a book called Concur. And, you know, I believe that everyone should write a book. Everyone. Because if life is worth living, it's worth writing. You know, even if at the end of the day, it's only your son or your daughter, whoever, that buys it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because at the end, you change their life. At least one day, your grandkids are going to be able to pick up that book and say, you know what? My grandmother or my grandfather wrote a book. You know what? I can do it too. That's great. And if my daughter was here today, she'll tell you, hey, man, my dad wrote a book, and his grammar's bad. You could write a book. And it's true. But again, thank you, Lord, for editors, man. All right? Thank you, Lord, for editors. And, you know, in that book, one of the hardest chapters that I wrote was chapter 5. It's called My Better Half. It was about my wife, how I met her, the habit. Because the book, there's a lot of psychology, there's a lot of habits, you know, because a lot of my good friends that own Fortune 500 companies, they told me, hey, Vic, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You have a great story. You know how to think in systems. Your habits are, man, they're great. You need to share it. You're very selfish. You better share it. If you're not going to be selfish, share it, please. So that's why I wrote a book. But yeah, one of the most difficult chapters that I wrote was chapter 5. That chapter was called My Better Half. And in that chapter, like I said, it was to do with my wife. And while I was writing it, what people don't know, about 5 years ago, we were going through a divorce. And as I was writing it, I said, man, you're being a hypocrite. Because you're talking about conquering, you can't even conquer your marriage. So then from there, I went to work. And then one day, she looks at me and says, I see the change in you. I'm going to dissolve this divorce. I seen it. Then from there, she kept on talking. My brain just went blank. But what I remember one day when I was journaling, I went back to that journal of that year, and one thing I wrote to myself, Vic, the biggest apology that you can give is change. That's the biggest apology, man, is change. And I had to change. So that's the thing, man. That's one thing I can say is, again, we're all here to change. We want to become better. And the next day if you ever write a book, please send me a copy. I want to buy it. And if one day you get on the stage, I'll be there, and I'll be taking notes. Because I always say I'm a good student. I'm a great student. I will take notes. I will be there. And again, hey, thank you for having me. And if there's any kind of way I can serve you, please let me know.
Does anybody have any questions for Vic?
Any questions? Oh, yeah. What I'm doing right now is I gave them to Roger. So whatever he priced them out, they're going to the nonprofit organizations. So whatever y'all buy, it's all going here. Yes, sir. Well, there's a chapter in the book that talks about that. And I'll be very, just as straight as I can. It was one time when I was driving out to Florida in Arkansas, I saw that big old cross, and I was looking at a movie called Fireproof while I was driving. And that's where there's a scene when they say when he has problems with his wife, and his dad tells him, about hey, well, let me take that back. The guy says something about, hey, about your wife. About my wife. She keeps on spitting in my face, and I don't know what to do. He was whining to his dad, and his dad says, "You know what, son? You're right, because you keep on doing that same thing to Jesus Christ." And that's how I felt. That's what really made me change. But there's that chapter talks about my walk, how I found Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
My brother, I appreciate you.
Always.
I am so honored to have my friend Vic and every speaker to be here, and I'm just so thankful that they have taken the time to do that. And guys, let's just give it up again for all the speakers that have been here so far.